about books, Ben.
Swords about books, Nate.
We did it. We fixed the economy. We reversed the tariffs that were going to destroy our economy, except for the ones against China that are most of our raw resources.
And 10% against everyone.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We did it. We did it for at least 90 days.
Dude,
We saved the day.
I don't even know why you bother talking about this stuff. This doesn't even come out. This won't come out for another 2 weeks.
I love talking about it because it will change by the time this is released. And in 3 months, not even 3 months, in a month will be completely irrelevant because we'll have already started a new trade war. But then it eventually will circle back around and be evergreen content. Like 3 years from now, someone's going to listen to this episode and be like, oh, we did tariff China 104% in 2027 or 2028. I can't count.
You should really go back and listen to some of our early COVID episodes.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah,
you can't make me.
That's a fun experience for a lot of reasons.
The quality of the mic work alone was enough to make me not want to listen. So,
well, let's hope others don't feel the same way.
Well, give me your money. Are you tired of watching ads, Ben? You should just get PiBlocker. Just give all your data to these people. All of it.
What the hell are you talking about
now? Give it to them, Ben. Give the ad blocker from the makers of Honey the likely scam.
Who advertised this to you? Why are you talking about this right now?
Do you not get nonstop ads on YouTube about this ad blocker?
I have YouTube Premium.
You fucking dick.
Yeah, instead of selling all your data to them, you can just get YouTube Premium. And you know why I got YouTube Premium? You want to know what the final straw was?
Pi ad blocker?
No. Well, kind of. It was ads, yeah. But it's when my wife isn't home, I like to put on one of those fake fireplaces, and I've like really gotten into like I have a log preference at this point. Like
this is
like I really like
some
the
next level shit, Ben.
I like the ambiance of a fake fireplace, and the illusion of my fake fireplace was ruined by constant ads. So I finally, after getting 2 sets of ads within 5 minutes, not even able to enjoy my fireplace.
Is hilarious.
I finally just broke down.
This is so on brand. That's great shit. I have a projector, so my fireplace would be like up off the ground.
Well, I don't think you want that. That's too big. That's just going to be your house is on fire. Why do you even need that?
A projector?
Yeah.
I've always had a projector since for the last 10 years, actually. This projector's lasted a long time.
For what purpose?
I had an apartment that had a wall right in the middle of the main room that walled it off from the kitchen, and it was perfect. And we just put a shelf above the couch, and it projected onto that wall, and then I just carried that with me to this place. I've got 2 projectors now, Ben.
I don't watch much TV.
I don't have cable.
Well, no one has cable. I mean, like, I don't watch like the streaming stuff either.
Well, then you didn't watch House of the Dragon, Ben.
No, I didn't watch House of the Dragon.
Well, we're going to be talking about the adaptation of that, or the reverse, the unadaptation.
The source material?
There you go. The outline that was sold for profit.
Yeah.
To idiots like you and me.
The thing is, House of the Dragon, yeah, it seemed like a bad idea. And from what I understand, it was a bad idea.
Well, Ben, did you see how the other series ended? We need to get something out to make people forget about that so we can sell merch again.
Are they? Did it work? Did it work for even a second?
I think it worked.
Was anyone even remotely hyped for House of the Dragon?
I don't think they're hyped anymore, but
I mean, ever.
At the time, I think that there were enough people hyped about like, oh, I mean, I didn't start watching until season 2. Season 2 came out, and we went back and we watched all of season 1. And then my wife was like, "Oh, I actually watched the entire series," and I was like, "Oh, can't believe you'd watch that without me."
Of House of the Dragon?
House of the Dragon. Ben.
I could not care less.
That's what we're
about House
talking
of the
about
Dragon.
today, but not that. We're talking about the Dance of the Dragons from Fire and Blood, the first volume of the 2-volume history of House Targaryen. That, do you think he's going to finish it, Ben? Do you think Blood and Fire is ever coming out?
No, I don't even know why he said it was going to be 2. He should have just said it was the like 1 volume, and then if another volume came out, everybody would be pleasantly surprised. I don't know why he does this to himself.
On the plus side, no one is like, "Oh, George has an announcement. I wonder if it's going to be Blood and Fire." I've been waiting for years for him to finally, like, what happens after the Dance of Dragons? I need to know, how many sisters does Aegon the Fourth, the unwise or whatever, how many sisters does he impregnate? You know, a lot. Yeah, I need to know the details, because that's what I'm into, I guess.
I
I love that article you sent me when it said Viserys was king because he was the last guy to ride Ballion or whatever. I didn't know if that was his dragon or his uncle.
I didn't send that to you. Jamie the Gravy Man sent that.
Oh, that was great. It was great.
I guess we should just start talking.
We've already been talking, Ben, but yeah, I guess if you missed part 2 because of all the content warnings I'm throwing up, that's okay. This is one of those books you don't need to have listened to part 2 to actually get part 3, because who cares?
It probably helps. You'll at least be coming in fresh.
Yeah, you won't have to listen to over an hour of anus.
This is one of those books where it's actually going to be way less confusing if you don't have 15 people with the same names already in your head.
You don't like Aegon the Uncrowned, who's different from Aegon the First, and also different from this episode's Aegon the Second, and this episode's Aegon the Third.
And isn't Jon Snow an Aegon of some sort? And aren't there more Aegons in between?
There's Aegon the Fourth. He's the guy who gets with all the sisters. And then I think there's an Aegon the Fifth, and I'm sure there's a bunch of Aegons who didn't become king.
Oh yeah, there's Duncan.
To be fair, right? There are real world things like this. Like the first 3 kings of Prussia all had the same name.
Yeah, I know that.
But
they weren't designed top down by an author.
Yes, exactly. when the first one started his dynasty, he wasn't thinking about 200 years from now I need to have a son or a grandson with the same name.
Yeah, I'm aware there are no less than 8 Henrys.
Yeah. And we only really care about the one.
Which one? Henry
the one who had all of the wives and also destroyed the church.
That's what he's definitely. I know about Henry II, and I know about Henry I.
I don't know about Henry VII. That was Henry VIII's dad.
I figured.
I know a little bit about him. I don't know about any of the other Henrys.
Yeah, I don't know much about the intervening Henrys. And then Henry VIII is the highest Henry I remember. If there were others,
if there were other Henrys.
I mean, I think he probably ruined it.
Or it was like the 23 for the Chicago Bulls jersey. He retired it because no one could ever be as Henry as Henry VIII was.
The thing is,
they retired his name and put it up in the rafters.
Do you want to know the interesting thing, though? I was having a conversation in the Discord about hard magic versus soft magic fantasy. And I know people, I think my brother's one of these people, who don't like to read fiction because they just prefer to read about things that actually happened.
It's your mom too.
Yeah, well, she likes mysteries. She doesn't, as long as it's murder, she doesn't really care if it happened or not.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I guess I see where you got it from, but all right.
but yeah, so I get that. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the logic, but I do find myself in a similar boat when people start telling me about their magic system or their
Yeah,
fictional line of kings,
yeah.
where I'm just like, yeah, this
That can
would
be
matter more to me if it really happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be flavor, but I don't want that to be your story or lack
Yeah.
thereof. I think
So,
that's the biggest problem with Fire and Blood.
yeah.
It's both a historical text and also not real, so it's like I guess I'd just rather read history or read a story crafted by an author.
Well, I think the thing is with a historical text, right? I live in a world shaped by the events of Henry VIII's reign. And particularly, like, I don't live in Europe, obviously, but I'm of European descent. You know, America is a series of British colonies. So, like, it all kind of like, yeah, I'm aware of like where some of this is going when they're having these wars in ancient times. And like, it, with that context, it becomes interesting.
Yeah.
What George R. R. Martin is denying me is the context I
Yeah.
crave
Yeah.
about the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't need a list of kings, George. I need to know what the hell Valyria was.
Yeah, we didn't mention it last time, but the daughter who ran away went to Valyria and came back with like weird monster worms inside of her flesh, and she was hot to the touch. And we don't know if this is a reliable recounting of what actually happened because the only people who saw her was the doctor. And then they just banned people from ever going to Valyria. And Ballion, I can't remember his name.
Balerion?
Balerion, the dragon, not the fantasy uncle, was injured. So he went to Valyria, and something there was capable of injuring a dragon. And like that sounds interesting. Let's never go there again.
Yeah, and of course, everything has to be an unreliable account and just hinted at from the shadows because George hasn't written it yet, and he might change his mind.
Or it needs to be a reveal later, so he can't just make it.
Yeah, so I guess that's my thing. Is like I want the context, not the list of kings. And I don't
Yeah,
care about anyone in the Dance with Dragons. I understand that there are dragons, and that's great.
and they had to go somewhere, so here it is.
Well, I think the sales pitch for the Dance with Dragons, right, is like, oh, it's Westeros, but you get to see it at the height of its power, but it's not at the height of its power. And also, you get to see like actual, like the Targaryen family at the height of their power. It's not very impressive. I think that's part of the problem. It's just, this is when they have the
Yeah, they
most
couldn't even beat
dragons
Dorne.
they'll ever have, and they're not
They
that
had an army of
impressive.
dragons. They never subjugated Dorne. Come on, man.
Dany's 3 dragons in A Song of Ice and Fire are infinitely more dread inducing and scary than the, I don't know, dozen dragons that are involved in this. And I guess my thing is, if you want a whole bunch of dragons just fighting each other, go read Rebecca Yarros.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can read that have that, and it
I
doesn't
don't,
have a guy named Anus in it. So
and I'm just gonna throw this out there now because like I
so
don't want to get
okay,
into it.
you do
It
that,
be
and then I'm going to ask you about the Iron Bank of Bravos because
okay.
I
It
woke
becomes
up in the middle of the night.
absolutely exhausting hearing about every whorehouse and sexual assault.
Yeah,
And I'm not trying to be God, don't get on my ass about
can you
being
imagine if this was
woke
a
or any of that shit.
historical
Like,
text?
yeah, it's like, well, if it
All
was a
right,
historical text, like, wouldn't there be
in what year? was the widow brutally assaulted sexually. Multiple choice. Like, was that important? Is that more or less important than how Aegon's sister died, or if she even died, and why he ended the war? How about you just tell me what the most common prevailing theory of the time was for why Aegon ended the war, and then just say that was canon.
Yeah, but it like I guess the thing that gets me is it's kind of just it's only the shocking stuff, and most of it is recycled from A Song of Ice and Fire.
Or from that story about the whipping. I used a rod that was only as thick as my thumb, but oh, I beat her too much.
Well,
I'm
like
only
there's
allowed to beat her 6 times.
like there you remember how Jaime gets his hand cut off in captivity and then sent back, and that was a big like war crime. You were going to do that again?
Yeah. I like the part where the two twins fight to the death.
And
I
that
don't
was
remember their
interesting.
names. Actually, now that I think about it, I do not remember their names.
I think it was like Chippendale.
They did have names that I think were the same, like Eric and Eric.
Eric and Arik.
Yeah, why did you do that? Sorry, but I'm also taken out like you were with Kermit, Elmo, and Oscar the fucking Grouch showing up, and Grover. Why did you do that?
I don't know. You would just think that if somebody had time to write down every instance of violence, sexual assault, or depravity, that they would also find time to write down who were the first men.
Yeah, no,
What are the
sorry.
god? Where did the
That was
gods
before the
would come
Andals
from?
and the
What is Valyria?
Ragnar. Sorry, but this is a history of House Targaryen, which for some reason excludes Valyria, even though they came from Valyria. So, like, shouldn't the history of House Targaryen have started a few hundred years before
Shouldn't
the
it at least
story?
start with the first guy to live on Dragonstone?
Yeah, shouldn't it have at least started with that? But probably even sooner. What can you tell me about Valyria?
Yeah, I
So why don't dragons just rule the world? I mean,
I don't
I
know. He
still
won't tell
understand why
us.
Valyria didn't rule the world,
I don't
and
know.
now
He
I'm
won't
like,
tell us.
why didn't he ever turn his attention east? And like, okay, so the Iron Bank of Bravos has a bunch of money, and they loan it out.
Don't think
Why
about
just
that. Think about that
why just
GMO direwolf I just made.
why just burn you alive? And yeah, that was his announcement. Get
I
fucked.
made a big dog. I paid a lot of people a lot of money to
Where'd that
genetically
money come from,
engineer
George?
a
Was
big
it from
dog.
Tough? Was it from Tough Voyaging? Is that where you got that money?
George
Was
R.
that
R.
your bread and
Martin
butter?
is
It
not
must
your
really
bitch.
suck.
How very
It
dare
must
you?
it must really suck to be successful and famous and have people worried that you're going to die before you finish your work. That must really suck, George. That must be really awful for people to really want to read your finished work so bad, and they're worried
Why are
that
these
you're going to
internet
die.
trolls not happy about my mutant dog?
Or your 50th anniversary for wild cards or whatever, 30th, whatever.
Or the Milk of the Poppy bar opening now?
Or Blood and or Fire and Blood, the first of 2 volumes that I also won't finish. Are my table scraps enough for you peasants?
No. But maybe if you do 16 more conventions no one's ever heard of, maybe then. You know, you know what would help him? If he just said it's not coming.
Yeah, we said that in the last episode.
Yeah.
Just admit it and rip off that Band-Aid. I
Yeah.
agree. What do we want to say about the dance,
I don't know.
then?
What did you want to say about the Iron Bank of Bravos?
Yeah, why don't I just, like, okay, I'm indebted to you, but I've got dragons. I mean, you can send the faceless men after me. Can they fly?
Are you always in the air?
Well, I'm not always in the air, but I'm
I'll
faster than a
get you.
person.
They'll get you.
You might, but you won't be around to see it. And
They're very professional. They're okay with that.
is it in gold? Like, does the Iron Bank back up? Like, is this the gold standard? They back up? Do they just lend out gold, or do they lend out like scrit that has gold attached to it?
I would imagine, like, when they divide up the treasury, he has to send like 4 ships in 4 different directions. So I think it's gold.
So yeah, I'm gonna just go raid the Iron Bank then.
I think there's an understanding that Bravos is pretty hard to take out. So the Bravosi are
Is it?
escaped Valyrian slaves.
So do they have defenses against like 8 dragons descending on them?
I think they are prepared to fight dragons.
Okay.
And I think they are prepared, like, I think that's what they said, is like, you can do that, but the
Does
faceless men,
wildfire exist yet?
I don't know.
Because see, everyone always like swoops down and they
Yeah, why aren't they
they do
dropping wildfire?
drop batches of wildfire. I'm going to firebomb your city, and then I'm going to steal all of your money
Well, like, you
because
know
all of your
how,
money is in a bank. I guess
okay,
the Iron
so,
Bank is now mine. I'm annexing it. I'm forgiving all my debts.
well, and the other thing is, we don't know, like, how far does a dragon's flame breath shoot?
Yeah.
Um, so, like, if a dragon's, if the dragon's flame breath can't, like, if the dragon, for some reason, to use its flame breath, has to be within range of the anti-dragon weapons, then yeah, you would immediately start looking into what could I use to get that range back, because the advantage of the dragon is the weapon. It's like how when Genghis Khan first got on a horse, he also took his bow that he had on the ground. And he was like, here's the thought. I combine the speed of the horse with the range of the bow, and I move rapidly around the
Why don't they?
battlefield.
Why don't they have other missile weapons with combined with their dragons? I mean, I guess I can't like aim a bow really easily, but again, I'm gonna just drop a big heavy bag of rocks from the sky.
Well, and here's my thing. I'm gonna hang on. Let me bring something. I'm gonna read you a quote. Okay. It's high time we got into the actual quote. George R. R. Martin once said the following: ruling is hard. This, A Song of Ice and Fire, was maybe my answer to Tolkien, whom, as much as I admire him, I do quibble with. Lord of the Rings had a very medieval philosophy that if the king was a good man, the land would prosper. We look at real history, and it's not that simple. Tolkien can say that Aragorn became king and reigned for 100 years, and he was wise and good, but Tolkien doesn't ask the question, what was Aragorn's tax policy? And then he goes on to ask a few more questions like, did he maintain a standing army? Did he blah, blah, blah? No, he didn't, first of all. Did not maintain a standing army because, as you said, it was a medieval society, and they did not have standing armies in medieval society because 95% of the population was needed to do subsistence farming, because the whole world had ended and it was basically a post-apocalypse until the early modern period. So no, they didn't have a standing army, and they didn't engage in years-long constant warfare because they would die of starvation.
And war is expensive.
So yeah, it probably wasn't hard for Aragorn to be a decent king after, he wiped out all the orcs. There's tons of money. Like, it doesn't matter. But I guess that's the thing is, why does it matter? Tolkien wasn't trying to write a story
Yeah,
about
yeah,
how to rule a kingdom.
that's a good point.
That's probably why he doesn't spend a lot of time focusing on Aragorn's tax policy. Is that what you're doing? Is this supposed to be a story about how to rule a kingdom?
Yes.
Have you figured it
And
out yet?
the number one thing is you need solid inheritance laws.
Yeah,
Because if you don't, you will destroy everything.
I guess that's my thing is, where is this going? Do you know? Obviously not.
It's going to A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, okay. But like, what is the actual point? Like, if you're asking the question of like, if you have said, and I keep hitting this in every episode of this, but I feel like it's important to just keep it back in your brain every single time, is the purpose of A Song of Ice and Fire seems to be to ask the question, what makes a good ruler? Like, how can we take our good intentions and achieve good results? And
And that's why I am voting for Joe Biden.
well, and the thing is, he keeps talking about, and when we look at real history, it's like, what real history are you looking at? I guess that's my thing, is because we've asked several times, like, are we being too pedantic about this? Are we picking it apart on a level that's not fair for a fantasy book? But I think his stated purpose was to bring the realism back to it. And to some extent, I think he just brought misery to it. Like, if you wanted to write a period piece about the anarchy in Britain, you should just do that.
Well, you said he doesn't want to write a period piece. That would require a lot of research.
Yeah. But I think what he's finding out is, unfortunately, when you've written 10,000 pages of material that needs to remain consistent, it's kind of like doing research anyway. There's no way he can remember what he wrote in a Game of Thrones unless he reads a Game of Thrones every year. So do the dance. Let's get it over with.
All right. So it starts with the good King Viserys, who is Jaehaerys' heir, and he's a great king, 10 out of 10. Just he can't seem to get that Y chromosome whenever he nuts. Should I make this a little less explicit for people?
I don't know. Content warning.
He can't seem to get a male child. And his heir currently is his brother, Daemon Doctor Who Targaryen. And he was named Daemon, so you know he's a bad guy, right? He's maybe a little too brash and too offensive, and he wouldn't be a great king because his tax policy would be to like stab you in the
But he
face.
would be a great cop.
Yeah, and he was a great cop. He was the leader of the Kingsguard or not the Kingsguard, the City Watch.
He made a lot of friends there.
He did. He did. So the Hand of the King is Sir Otto Hightower. Good old Otto. And he's like, "Hey, King Viserys, I know that your wife just died trying to give birth to your son, and that didn't really
That's a
pan
bummer.
out. Yeah, that's a big time bummer. So first, what you should do, put Rhaenyra as your heir, because Daemon would be a bad king, and then you should hook up with my daughter. Yeah, you like that? You like how much younger she looks than you in the show? Is this doing it for you?" And Viserys is like, well, she's not my sister, but I suppose I can close my eyes and think of England.
Close my eyes and think of incest.
Meanwhile, he's like, all right, now, Rhaenyra, you don't have any brothers to marry. I mean, sorry, mom died in the process, but you do have a hot cousin who might be into dudes. So we're going to hook you two up. And then you can just close your eye. He can close his eyes and think of England. But we all know you're just going to cheat on him, and he's going to be cool with it. And you're going to get 3 strong boys.
Capital S.
Yeah. Then Alicent Hightower, the queen, in the show, she's friends with Rhaenyra, and that makes it a little weirder, actually. Like, dude, you're fucking my dad. That's weird, right?
It's not the weirdest thing this family's ever done. No, actually, borderline socially acceptable.
Yeah.
The weird thing is the bastard children can ride. Now, it's not confirmed they're bastards. This is another.
They're definitely bastards in the show, but yeah.
It certainly seems that way. They don't look like Targaryens, but they can ride dragons.
Yeah. Because they've got Rhaenyra as their mothers. They have Targaryen blood, Ben.
This book made me question if anyone can ride a dragon.
Targaryens can ride dragons, Ben. And people with Targaryen blood. How
Not
much blood?
that
I don't
many
know.
people who don't have Targaryen blood have had the opportunity to try to ride a dragon, is what I've noticed.
So here's my thing, Ben. And also, that is a good point, and I would also limit commoners from trying to ride my dragons. So, you know, here's the thing. Targaryen blood. It's got a buff that allows you to ride dragons and a buff against incest, inbreeding.
Yeah, they're like naked mole rats, these people. Look like them, too.
Yeah, Doctor Who, his head always looks weird.
I mean, the challenge is when you find an actor to play a Targaryen, the actor is not going to be an incest monster. Like, even the ugliest person could not adequately describe a Targaryen. Unless you're casting from, like, the deep hills and hollers of West Virginia.
Can you imagine if those were the Targaryens?
Those are the Targaryens.
Can you imagine? Oh, lore accurate.
They ride out from the holler on a giant possum. A dire possum.
That would scare the shit out of me.
I'd let them start mining coal again. It's all they want. They can't dream any bigger than that.
So Alicent, her family is it's a tower on a field of green or something. So they're the Greens, Ben.
I thought it was because one wore a green dress and
She
one
wore a
wore
green
a black
dress, which is her family dress, and Rhaenyra wore a black dress, so they're the Blacks. And in the show, Rhaenyra is like, I will marry your son, or my son can marry your daughter. Incest is wincest. That ties our two factions together. And that would solve everything, so of course that can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rhaenyra is like, well, I guess I'm just going to go to Dragonstone and do nothing for like 10 years and just hope for the best.
Be my plan if I was rich.
Yeah, if you wanted to be the queen, it's a bad plan. But if you wanted to be
I don't know.
Rich,
hang out where all the dragon eggs are, not the worst plan.
Yeah, no, it was a stupid plan just because they didn't have writers. That's the only reason. So here what they do.
I think anyone could probably ride a dragon.
Yeah,
This is one of those theories about
Yeah,
dragons we haven't
but
tested because we're
no, you're
deeply
wrong.
incurious about dragons.
Yeah, you're wrong. Sorry.
I need a list of a few more public servants so that I can forget my curiosity about how dragons work.
Yeah,
Could you please list every member of the council and the highest ranking officers of the City Watch?
absolutely. So you've got
Sir
Corlys
Donald
Valerion,
Sir Donald Bridgerton,
Dick Bean the Second.
Ass Chapley.
So anyway, Viserys died. The greatest king of our time,
Was
and
he?
he'll be remembered fondly, probably.
I mean, what are you comparing yourself to?
He'll be remembered fondly by the small folk as continuing Jaehaerys' peace and prosperity. It's just he was also not a very great king when it came to like successors. But you know what? Neither was Catherine the Great.
95%
So
of our population is subsistence farmers.
yeah, and 95% of them didn't die in a war under Viserys' reign.
Yeah, it's because there wasn't a famine, there wasn't a war.
Yeah, and as the king, he is directly responsible for the famines because he is an agent of God or something. I don't know if that's actually the case in this world, but he saw us through, Ben, and we're going to compare him to his successor, which is 3 years of civil war. So Viserys not that bad.
No. I mean,
It's
it is
like
kind of like Joe Biden.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say it's like Joe Biden when you're
he
like
just got in there and
he
didn't do much, and that was enough.
yeah, that was enough.
Though, if you ask a hard line member of the Democratic Party, he did a lot, and it's my fault for not knowing about it.
Yeah, yeah, I
Bidenomics.
can see how I'm in the wrong here.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. It's
Fuck
apparently
you.
my job. It's apparently my 8 hour a day job with all the funding in the world to stay informed of what Joe Biden's doing. It couldn't. I can't put that on him. He's tired. He needs a nap.
Yeah, fuck you, Chuck.
God.
Retire immediately. So, yeah, all the lords swore that Rhaenyra would become queen. But like a lot of those lords did that like 27 years ago. They're probably dead. Their sons are now in charge. Like I bet we could get a guy on the throne. I bet we can get Aegon the Second. I'ma just crown him. Let's just crown him. And then we'll give Rhaenyra generous terms. We'll let you continue to be rich. You can be dragon. You can take Dragonstone. And yeah, actually, it's a pretty solid deal. You're not doing anything right now anyway, and we've basically been ruling for the last 10 years anyway. Here are my terms. And she's like, go fuck yourself. And thus, civil war.
Yeah, that is the setup of the anarchy in Britain.
So, she has more dragons, but she doesn't have enough riders, Ben. So we have to have conventional warfare for some reason. We can't just fly to King's Landing and get this war over with in about 2 days, maybe? No. Oh, yeah, she married Damon. She married her uncle and had kids with him. So, that's fun. So Corley, so they make some alliances. Her middle son gets got by the middle son with the one eye patch.
Oh yeah.
That guy's a Chad in the show.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's pretty intense in the book, I guess.
He's easily their most capable warrior on the Greens team.
Aim one eye.
Yeah. Whereas Aegon the Second's kind of a chode, and he married his sister.
Okay, I've lost track of.
They,
You're going to need other defining characteristics.
well, this guy jerks off out of windows in the movies or in the in the HBO series.
Not sure why anyone would feel the need to add that.
He sexually assaults servants in the Red Keep.
Okay.
He drinks a lot and has a bunch of frat bro losers.
So is he the bad one?
I think he's supposed to be the bad one.
So who's
Yeah.
the good one?
I think we're supposed to like Rhaenys, but then or Rhaenyra. I mean, Rhaenys being a different character entirely. Ben.
What's her tax
Oh,
policy?
why did her tax policy is I need to be in charge
Is she planning to maintain a standing army?
of dragons and also of secret police? I guess.
Uh, okay. So I'm Joe, subsistence farmer.
Well, your life is about to get a whole lot better because we are blockading King's Landing.
Okay, I'm Joe,
So no food.
subsistence farmer. Who are you people? Where is this happening? Why do I care?
You don't care, but you are going to be forced to pick up a weapon to fight on one side or another, and you will likely have to fight a dragon, and you will likely be burned to death.
Oh, I'm going to the woods.
Please don't.
Yeah, no, I'm going to be in the woods for a little bit.
Please don't. Please fight for me and die for me.
I get, and we've mentioned this in every episode, but you still haven't convinced me how anyone levies troops.
You click the button that says raise all troops,
Yeah,
and that will raise them, Ben.
So you levy fresh, untrained troops. You put a pike in their hand. They see a dragon in the sky and they don't run away. Why?
Dude, why would they even go there? They know that they're going to fight some against people who likely have dragons.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thing. Like, this is my thing. Like,
as soon as you turn around, I am fleeing and deserting.
See,
what are you going to do? Strip me of my lands? You will be burned to death before you have the chance to do that.
I go back to my George R. R. Martin quote where he said, "We look at real history and it's not that simple." And I would like you to apply that same logic to raising an army.
You click raise all levies here.
Because a lot of people
raise
pointed
all
out,
armies.
he's talking about the early modern period. The way the armies function is like the way they functioned during the Cromwell Civil War and not so much during the medieval period. Like trained armies, musketmen, cavalry.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what would be really good against dragons? Artillery. I mean, that'd be really great. If we could get that.
Well, that's kind of how he treats like scorpions and stuff, except they're only there for dragons.
Yeah,
they never fire on anything except a dragon.
That's all people use ballistas for in real life, Ben, was to slay those dragons.
Yeah. I guess that's just my thing is like what I just read this book, all 750 pages of it. And I swear to God, it seems to me like I'm trying to remember the Dance with Dragons, and it seems like 6 people named Rhaenyra fighting 7 people named Aegon.
God, I wish.
And they're like green and black. I remember that.
Did you like Blood and Cheese, Ben?
Oh yeah, and they murdered that kid. That was kind of funny. That
George hated that they erased one of the kids from existence in the books because that kid is super important.
So let me tell you Blood and Cheese, because this reminded me every AOL email chain letter thing. Not the ones where it's like send this to 6 people or you're gonna die. The ones where it's like, a woman's mother died and she met a cute guy at a funeral, and then a month later she murdered her sister. Why did she murder her sister? And it's because she thought the same cute guy would show up to the funeral again, and she's a psychopath, and that's how you can tell a psychopath. And it's like,
it turns out that she had a thing for her own sister. And
well, it's just like those dumb little stories that are like really interesting at like a glance, and then you think about it and you're like, okay, whatever. But yeah, so the guy comes up and he's like, which one of your blood and or cheese? I don't know which one was which. Comes up and is like,
Cheese was the rat catcher, Ben.
okay, and blood was the blood catcher.
Blood was the city guardsman.
Oh, okay. So one of them says, "Hey, lady, which one of your kids do you want to die?" And she says, "Oh no, I guess kid A should die." And they're like, "Ha, nice." And then they killed kid B, and they turn to kid A, and they're like, "Your mom fucking hates you." And then she's in despair for the rest of her life and kills herself. And I guess George is really mad because like her motivation for killing herself is that she had to go through this traumatic event, which seems like one of those AOL chain emails where somebody just thought of like a dumb, cruel thing to have happen. And he's like, now that only one of her children was murdered, now she won't be properly sad enough to kill herself. And I'm like, I don't know. I think one works just as well. Like, if anything, it's crazy she didn't like descend into madness faster. She lasts like a good
She lasts a while.
5 years, it feels like. But yeah, no, so I guess George was mad that a woman who witnessed her child murdered in front of her would, I guess, not have a reason to be depressed enough.
Yeah. I'm upset that that other child isn't around because later on he gets torn limb from limb, and we need to see that happen. We need more child murder.
Well, yeah, and I guess reasons to cut that may include having to hire a child actor and for the express purpose of playing a role where 90% of their role needs to use creative shooting because the child can't be on set for that scene because that's against regulations.
Wanted child actor. You need to first be watch your sibling die, and then
that's
your
the
mom
thing.
fall into despair,
I
and
think
then we're gonna rip you.
There's actually rules. They can't film that scene with a child in the room.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things you're not allowed to do with young child actors.
Woke Hollywood.
You're not allowed to
film this
yell
in
at them.
Florida, where the child actors are just labor to be used.
So here's things
you don't
you're not
even
allowed
have to
do.
give them water anymore.
You're not allowed to do to a child actor. You're not allowed to yell at them. You're not allowed to threaten them. You're not allowed to hold a weapon on them.
Oh my god.
So
this is why all of our child actors are soft, Ben.
So I would have to, as the director of the show, find a way to, and I'm sure you could find a way to shoot it such that the kid never needs to actually be there when that stuff's happening. You could just get creative with it. But like, why would I do that? That's a whole ton of effort.
George R. Martin, I was gonna say happy, but he's never happy. Just
he'll open another bar. He'll be fine. He'll
Milk of the sister.
He'll resurrect the I don't know what's another extinct. The lizard lion. That'll be the next one.
The lizard lion.
Pretty sure they're alligators. Not sure why they live in the north.
What?
Yeah, the people from the swamps that are largely cut out of the show. You know where Jojen and Mira come from? The frogmen. Yeah, in their swamps they have lizard lions.
What?
Jojen and Mira, they carry Bran halfway across the north.
Yeah, I know who they are. I didn't know that they were even from the north, honestly. I figured they just showed up.
They're a part of a weird small group
that is
technically under Ned Stark's banner. They live in a swamp.
Why is there a swamp?
I don't know.
All the way up north.
I don't know how that's possible. But there is a thriving wetland where the frogmen who use poison, which is a woman's weapon, which is why nobody respects them.
Tends to be drier up north, though.
But Ned saw the good in them and treated them with respect. And so now they fight for Ned. They're fiercely loyal. And Jojen has a green dream in the swamp. And that tells him to go see Bran, drag him halfway across the continent to go talk to a guy who's part tree. And then the books run out. So I don't know what happens after that. But I assume somebody holds a door. And then in their swamps, there are lizard lions, which is either a crocodile or some mythological beast that George R. R. Martin needs to have his team of scientists create in a lab. Also,
Okay.
dragons. Send them to Ukraine.
Okay.
They need help.
Well. Awesome. So okay, so I guess Daemon takes Harrenhal, and they're gonna do a bunch of fighting in the Riverlands. There's a blockade of King's Landing. The River Lords fight each other a whole bunch, and then Daemon kidnaps their children and holds them hostage.
Does that
I guess you could
happen?
do that. You couldn't do that for Dorne, but you could do that for the Riverlands. And then uh Duskendale, Kristen Cole is there. He's a chode in the show, but he's a guy in this book. Anyway, uh, Aemond and Aegon kill Rhaenys, who is not Rhaenyra, but is uh, Corlys Valerion's wife. She's dead now. She got. But in the process, Aegon gets burned to shit, and Sunfire, who is his dragon, also gets wounded. And then Rhaenyra is like, I think we need more dragons, like more riders. Let's get some dragon riders. And then the people from Essos come to aid Aegon and their alliance to break the blockade of King's Landing, but they were like, oh no, would on ships be flammable? And Jacaerys, who is Rhaenyra's firstborn son, burns them to the ground. But then he hits the water and he dies. He flies too close to the water after he effortlessly wins the battle and he dies.
Is that what happened? I thought
wonder how they're gonna do that in the show.
I thought he got shot or something.
No, he 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 hits the water.
You'd think the dragon wouldn't let you do that. Oh, here's another question.
Oh, I guess he leapt free, but then was pierced and killed. So he basically just died, right?
Okay, here's the other question. They whip the dragons?
Do they?
Yeah, it's mentioned multiple times in the book.
Well, they don't do that in the show.
That they
And
have
also,
a whip and they
that
whip
doesn't
the
make any
dragons.
sense because
Yeah.
dragons are fucking huge and nothing you can do can hurt them unless you shoot them in the eye, apparently.
Yeah.
They're covered in armored scales. He specifically said that there's no other weak point.
So this is what was making me think that, like, okay, this isn't a magical bond between rider and dragon, right? Like, if you have to whip it to make it do the thing you want it to do.
No, in the show they talk to it.
Yeah. Well, in
They
the book,
speak
they hit it with a
Valyrian.
whip.
Okay. Also,
they might also speak Valyrian, but
also the Triarchy's fleet sacks Lord Valerion's treasury because he didn't leave any ships at home. Like he didn't have any defenses at home.
okay. Here's a question for you. You're the historical war expert.
I've played Risk. You can't move all your pieces out of one area. You have to leave at least one behind.
Nor can you in the Game of Thrones board game, which does ruin friendships if you've ever played it.
No, I've wanted to play it, but
the last time I played the Game of Thrones board game, I'm happy to say it wasn't me. I was cool as a cucumber. I was like, you know what? This game's got me before. This game has got me heated. I'm not going to fall for it this time. I'm going to be very zen about this. There is no self. It's not my army getting crushed because there is no me. So that was the attitude I took. But my friend went up against my friend and won and flipped the table.
See,
I've never seen anyone actually do that in real life until Game of Thrones.
I had a game group, but we're way too passive. We played like a pirate game, and one of the ways that you score points is you just go and sink each other's ships. And we played for like 2 or 3 hours, and we only did combat once. And we were like, I don't think we're gonna win this game anytime soon because we're all just trying to gather resources and like win through buying victory when we should be killing each other more. So, yeah, we're too passive.
Yeah, we didn't have that problem.
Yeah, no, it doesn't sound like it.
No, we had the other problem. But yeah, no, my question to you was medieval combat, right? So somebody comes in with a bunch of ships to raid a city. Do you like need to leave a ship there? Or can you just have a bunch of guys on shore?
Just have a bunch of guys on shore or like a fortification.
Yeah, like if the castle's garrisoned.
Because medieval ship combat
like
didn't happen really.
They can't bombard you from the ocean. Like they don't have cannons.
They don't have cannons.
Yeah. I think George R. R. Martin thinks this is it's the early modern period.
Yeah, naval combat is actually boring as shit during medieval time because it's not. You can ram. You can board and fight each other in combat, I guess, but I don't think you even really did.
Yeah, I mean, like you could blockade,
and you know what else you can do? You can fly your dragon out there and burn the incredibly flammable ships. It's actually real easy.
Yeah.
Unless you're a dumbass and you fly too close to the water. I wonder if they're going to change that for the show. Make his death a little less stupid.
No, because if we look at real history, it's not that simple.
Yeah, when they were flying their B-22 bombers in the medieval times, sometimes they ran out of fuel.
It gets foggy. Sometimes you don't know where the water is. The dragon got dizzy.
So the story of the Greens is that they have bigger armies, but they're all spread out. They've got the Reach. They've, for the most part, they've got the Stormlands, except that guy decided he was just going to go fuck off to Dorne because even though he's a coward, he was like, I'm not fighting fucking dragons. Are you kidding me? And they got...
I don't know how they don't lose half their army to the woods every time.
yeah, it's exactly right. And they got the Westerlands, but none of their armies can join together because the few lords that are loyal to the blacks in those areas harass them long enough for them to get beaten up. So like the Lannisters, they win initially, and then the guys from, I think it was the North and whoever else, they got them. The Blackwoods, I think, are there. The Riverland Lords. They get got it, right?
You ever watch that Kings and Generals YouTube channel?
No.
You would actually like it.
They did do... Wait, is this something that they did on the dance? Because there is a YouTube video that went over the dance, and it was much more interesting in this book, and shorter.
I don't know. I don't watch their fictional stuff, but they do like real battles.
Yeah. Okay.
And
well, you don't want to hear this riveting, like, okay, and then the Lords of the Reach, they kept harassing the.
Well, I was going to say
Greens,
they do this, but they use
Daron
pictures.
The Daring, he flew out with his dragon, and they won.
I challenge anyone listening to this episode to repeat anything you just said for the last 10 minutes.
And then we need to flee from King's Landing because we're going to get got. Because Rhaenyra... Yes, Rhaenyra. I had to check. I was like, wait, is it Rhaenyra or Rhaenys? Rhaenys is dead. Rhaenyra got some dragon seeds. So now all of her dragons have pilots. And so they're coming for him. And
it's another Evangelion crossover.
what
Getting the
was I
dragon,
saying?
Shinji.
Getting the dragon. So she takes King's Landing, and they open the doors to her. This is season 3 territory; it hasn't even come out yet. They take King's Landing, but they don't get the treasury, and they needed the treasury to continue the war, and I don't know why, because what am I paying for? I don't have to pay you. You want to put me on the throne. You're doing this out of loyalty and or favors once I get the throne. You don't need money right now. I'm good for it. I'll be the queen if we win. Whatever. So,
Well, that's the other thing I was going to say is it seems like everyone's getting paid, right? Like it seems like everyone in the army
as
is
if they're
getting
mercenaries.
yeah, like everyone's getting paid to be there.
Yeah, your payment is I told you to do it. You get to use my land to farm. So when you're not farming, you better be defending. But also, I don't typically make you defend not your land, or if I do, I'm not marching you all the way across the country.
Well, yeah,
And
I
if I
think
was, I wouldn't make you march across the country to fight a B-22 bomber because you're
yeah,
not winning that fight.
well, and also I wouldn't do it. Like but again, I guess I live in a world where winter comes reliably like every 6 months. Like I can really only spare like a month and a half to go fight your dumb little wars. Other than that, like all these guys kind of need to be back making the food or there's no food.
Yeah, well, how about money instead? You can buy food. From
From
where? I
who?
don't know.
Like you could give them gold. Most of them couldn't even get anywhere where they could use it. They definitely value the food more. And you will too here soon.
Well, Ben, would it help if I told you that we are throwing feasts with corpses and we're putting a bunch of we're elaborately staging corpses sharing a meal to throw you off. And then
I'm
eventually
I'm sure
the
somebody
corpses
actually
are going
did
to be
this.
my army instead.
I'm sure somebody actually did this.
Yeah. And that's why George was like, I need to put that in there. And this is where Kristen Cole dies. They cut him down to the last man and they slaughter all of his soldiers. And uh, I guess if we kill enough peasants, their work is going to actually start being worth money. And that's bad for us. Anyway, whatever. I don't care. Then
I
then
don't know where like
You don't know where's here. Let me help you out, Ben. See, Rhaenyra, she leaves Dragonstone to take King's Landing from Aegon, but he's not there. And Aegon then goes to Dragonstone while she's not there because she didn't leave anyone behind. So they castle swapped. I thought that was exceptionally stupid. And then
well this is the
there's
thing.
the
How many people are there?
there's
Like
so many people, Ben.
in general. I mean like what is the population of
So
Westeros?
many. Hundreds of thousands per region, Ben.
Well, there's hundreds of thousands in King's Landing.
So millions and millions and millions of people, despite there only being like one major gigantic town.
There's 3, I think. There's Old
Oh yeah, I
Town,
guess Old Town.
Lannisport, and King's
Well,
Landing.
Lannisport's going to be burned by the Red Kraken, who may not even be in the show because why would he be?
Yet Dorne and the Iron Islands are the main problems, George. You could cut every single one of those people and I wouldn't care.
Although if we ever played that Game of Thrones game, I totally want to do the Iron Islands
The Iron Islands
because
are nice, yeah.
they are okay. I thought they would actually be extra hard, but I was like, you know what? I'm down to just raid with my ships.
The ships are more powerful than they probably should be for medieval
Nice.
combat. Yeah.
Nice.
You do need to take castles, but the mobility gives you a lot of range. Like
Nice.
you can easily get down to the places where people aren't fighting and take those and muster up a bunch of troops and then
Hell yeah. All right, we need to find some people to play this game with, Ben.
yeah, I can't. I don't know. Shy is not going to have the patience for that.
Josh played it before. He's got it on Steam.
The Game of Thrones board game. Shy, yeah, Shy's violently shaking her head now.
How many people we need? Like 5 people?
You could do 3 to 5.
We'll find 5 people. So, 2 of the Dragon Seeds, Ulf the White and Hugh Hammer, they betray Rhaenyra to the High Towers at Tumbleton, but then they get murdered by their own men later. Like they betray the people, and then the new people, the Greens, betray them because they're a bunch of assholes. They poison one and they stab the other, and they're dead now. I don't know what happened to their dragons. I can't remember that, but I assume they're dead as well. Then
The dragons all wind up fighting over. No, doesn't that one guy come in? The other dragon
Valerion's bastard. He flies in and he takes out Darion, but I think he also dies. Daron, Prince Daron the Daring. And then there's the battle above the God's Eye, where Chad Aemond faces against Chad Doctor Who, and this is going to be like, this is a season finale right here. I can already tell they're building towards it. And at the very end, Daemon leaps from his dragon and stabs his sword through Aemon's eye. They both crash into the water and die. Also, Daemon is having some. He's not doing the Lord's work, okay, because he is getting it on with someone who's not related to the family, and so Rhaenyra is like, "Hey, you need to bring me her head," and he doesn't, and they're dead now. And then the commoners storm the dragon pits, and I think you mentioned it's unclear why the dragons were fighting on the ground when they weren't chained up. One of them wasn't, but they did.
One of them wasn't chained. I don't know. One of them was. I don't know. I don't remember. This is stupid.
How do you get people, rioters, into a frenzy to go fight a living, breathing B-22 bomber?
Oh, because Paul Muad'Dib comes and he rallies the Fremen. There literally is a preacher, like a one-handed preacher, who comes and tells them all that the Targaryens are abominations unto the Lord, which they are, and that
they've got that buff against inbreeding, Ben.
Yeah, that kind of makes you more an abomination.
Is only 4% inbred because she has all of these buffs, Ben.
Look, I'm just saying, arguing that you have a superior ability to do inbreeding does not make you seem like less of an abomination.
Would it help if my sister were like really hot, bro?
That's probably the only way you could get anyone on board with this. Yeah.
I decided to marry my sister because like I don't know of any other girls, and I do mean girls because she's like 11 right now. Prince Jaehaerys, soon to be the greatest king in all of Westeros history.
Well, I'm sure that's romantic to someone somewhere, but
she was always by his side.
My point is, the preacher's
and
right.
He impregnated her 13 times.
The Targaryens are weird foreign invaders who make a mockery of your religion and constantly get you involved in insanely massive civil wars that kill almost everyone every other generation. Like,
Yeah,
nothing in
yeah.
medieval
Pick up your
history.
pitchfork and fucking go, you bitch. I'm sorry, but my hot brother needs the crown, so pick up your pitchfork and start marching. You're going to march 2,000 miles and fight a dragon, asshole. Get in
It's,
there.
yeah, like the Targaryens suck. They suck, right? Like, and again, I have to say, like, we look at real history and it's not that simple. And this is where I think George, in his effort to tell you how it really was, has gone completely off the deep end. Medieval war never reached this scale. It can't. Like, they just don't have the supply or the material or the people to sustain this level of violence for this amount of time.
But what if we also threw a B-22 bomber in there, Ben?
Oh, and here's another thought. It's easy to say that Aragorn was wise. He didn't marry his fucking sister.
He should have. Well, he kind of did, didn't he? He was raised by the guy who would eventually give
No,
him
not
his
like the
daughters.
Targaryens. No. No, you know what? There's a world. She's a different species, practically. There's a
Yeah,
world of genetic difference there.
and we were very, very clear that she is like smoking lava hot. You know,
She looks like Elrond as a girl.
Yeah, she does.
That's the actual description that's given. Elrond is a much prettier man, granted.
Well, unfortunately, he's tainted by Agent Smith being and the Red Skull being the guy who betrays him.
Welcome to my forehead, Frodo Baggins.
It's the eyebrows, right? They're very,
No,
very
it's the two veins,
it's the skull.
right? It's the
Yeah,
two veins.
it's
Yeah,
his skull that's just like you're not.
his
sorry,
eyes
man.
are just ever so slightly too far apart.
You have the skull of a villain, and it works when you're a villain, but it's weird when you're supposed to be a really hot elf man.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rhaenyra goes back to Dragonstone, not realizing that Dragonstone was taken, and Aegon kills her by feeding her to his dragon in front of his nephew.
No idea.
Sorry, it was. He's his nephew and also something else because he's his uncle's kid.
You've seen pictures of these people. I only know who Doctor Who is.
Well, he's dead now. He
I
crashed
know.
into the...
That's the only person I have a face to put with a name.
So Aegon the Elder is Aegon the Second. He's the current king. He feeds Rhaenyra to the dragon in front of Aegon the Younger.
Who's the tiny girl? There's a larger girl and a smaller girl. They look exactly the same to me. But there's like a big one and a little one. I keep seeing in the trailers.
Helena maybe, and I don't know. I don't know who that could be.
I tried.
I don't know.
I tried.
I don't know. I can't. So then we get you know what? Let's just go to the end where Lord Boros Baratheon is like, we've secured King's Landing, King Aegon, but unfortunately the Muppets are coming. I will lead this. I will go and take them out myself, and then he gets fucking killed. And then Aegon is like, no, you tell the Muppets I'm going to send Aegon the Third, which he's not Aegon the Third yet, but that's what we're going to call him. I'm going to cut pieces of him up, and if I die, he dies, all the Targaryens are gone, and who would want that? And then he dies of poisoning. And then...
Turns out a lot of people.
And then... what's his nuts? Cregan Stark shows up after all the fighting is done. He's like, okay, I'm the hand now. And then he starts executing traitors or sending them to the wall.
Yeah, I like it when the one guy remembers you can do that. Like he's gonna execute everybody, and then the first guy to talk, he's like, "You got any last words?" He's like, "I want to take the black." He's like, "Okay, you can take the black." And then everybody else is like, "Holy shit, that was an option." Yeah, no, the black. I will take the black, sir.
Of the cripple guy with the funny foot, and he in the show he masturbates to the queen's foot. That was a scene that they filmed.
That makes his death a lot less noble.
No, he was a piece of shit. I mean, so then now we have Aegon the Third in charge, Ben, and he's gonna marry the last remaining daughter of Helena, and we're gonna have Targaryen on Targaryen action as the gods wanted. And also, Jaehaerys is eventually gonna wash up on shore, and he's like, "Hey, brother, brother." And how far along does the show? I think we're at the end, right? Because
Of
it's
the
like
show?
that would be the end of the show. Yeah, Aegon
Well,
the
no, it
Third is
doesn't.
now king. Okay,
Aegon the
bye.
Third. Well, he has this big, weird regency where he's at odds with his hand, and then somebody
Yes.
traps him in a keep for a while, and he's like not
Yep,
coming
he
out.
retreats
And
into the keep, and he's kind of a broken man. I think they call him Aegon the Broken or some shit.
I'll be on. Yeah, so everybody, like all the people ruling during his regency, just fuck with him and fuck with him and fuck with him, and then he walks out on his 16th birthday. This is kind of how the book ends. He walks out on his 16th birthday, and he's like, "Oh, hey, all you guys have been fucking with me. What day is today?" It's like, "It's your 16th birthday." He's like, "Yeah, it is. Get the fuck out. Every single one of you, get the fuck out." And they're all like, "I can't believe he's doing this. I did not see this coming."
And to be continued in Blood and Fire, never. He will never get to this, and I don't know if anyone even wants it.
What would it even be?
It would be the wiki.
So Kings and Generals does they have the exact same script, except A, it's real, and B, they have pictures. They put all these people on a map, and they have them smack into each other, and then the one that loses,
it also has a narrative usually.
Yeah, it's like,
because you can be like when you talk about Alexander the Great's conquests, you can put a narrative behind that, and you can try and humanize it so it's not just and then Alexander fought this guy, and then he fought this guy.
He tries to do that, but he takes like Alexander the Great died at what, 26 or something?
Yeah, he was super young, just like me.
You can do a whole ass thing on Alexander the Great. This is like, how many kings?
5, 6, 7.
The Dance with Dragons is marginally interesting. Jaehaerys' reign is marginally interesting. Jaehaerys the First,
Maegor. There's 7 of them in this book.
Yeah. Okay. So Aegon's conquest is kind of interesting, and then Jaehaerys is kind of interesting.
You kind of know what's going to happen, though. Just saying that a guy came over with dragons, it's like, okay.
Of course I know what's going to happen. He wrote a whole other book series where it already happened.
Yeah, exactly.
I know exactly what's going to happen.
You didn't need to tell me how it happened. You just need to say, guy with dragons unified us through conquest, and done. I agree.
Yeah, no, one of these guys is going to run off with Lyanna Stark, and it's going to be a whole big deal, and then he's going to die, and then there's not going to be any more Targaryens, except there's still one left. Well, 2, but one that matters.
Oh, but that guy might be
3,
a Blackfire.
No, I was actually thinking of Viserys.
Oh,
so
he's dead.
There's 3. Yeah, there's 3 left at the start, and again,
and then one of them might be Jon. So
I guess there's 4. Yeah.
And then Viserys dies, and then there's little.
I guess
John
there's technically 5
John,
because then old Aemond is still at the wall. I don't even. Yeah, what's the big deal? There's a ton of them. I just none of the questions. Like I go back to.
So what happened in Valyria?
Yeah. So if you want this
book synopsis said.
if you want this book to be just some dumb, like, let me ask you this question. In a world where The Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring is out and the series is concluded, would this book exist?
If it did, it'd be a lot more palatable.
After The Dream of Spring comes out, would he have felt the need to spend 2 years or however long it took him?
We would presumably know all of the things
Yeah.
already.
Yeah. So you know how in Lord of the Rings, they're constantly talking about all this stuff that you don't know what it is.
Oh, we didn't mention Mushroom the Dwarf.
I don't want to. So
okay.
It's a little offensive. So in Lord of the Rings, they're constantly talking about like Beren and Luthien and Morgoth and the Valar and the Lords of the West and the children of Hurin and all these like
and there's
things.
a whole continent that was sunk.
Yeah, and you're like, what is Gondolin? What were all these places? And then the Silmarillion comes out and it tells you what all of those things were, who all of those people were, and how they related to each other. That's the Silmarillion. That's what that is, okay? It's all the myths that are in the background of Lord of the Rings, it comes in and it tells you them. A Silmarillion for A Song of Ice and Fire would tell you creation myth of the world. What is Valyria? How did it relate to the rest of the world? Why were there dragons there? What else
Who are
is
the
there?
seven?
Who are the seven? What were the Andals? What was Andalos? Why are they not in Andalos anymore?
Where was Andalos?
Why are the first men like the first men came over and they adopted the gods of the children of the forest? Why did they do that? What are the gods of the children of the forest? Where do the children of the forest come from? Where do the giants come from? Like, that's what a Silmarillion of A Song of Ice and Fire would tell you. George R. R. Martin is profoundly uninterested in writing a Silmarillion of A Song of Ice and Fire because he has told us many times he is focusing on bringing a level of real human morality and real human history into fantasy. He doesn't want to do the myth making that Tolkien did, which, by the way, is why Tolkien does not address Aragorn's tax policy, because Aragorn is a mythological king. He's Arthur.
What was Arthur's tax policy? Could he have taxed? Who has money for him to tax? I guess it would be their grain, right? Or livestock, or what was the policy though? I need to know, Ben.
Like, I understand the question he's asking, and obviously me and everyone else in the world is profoundly interested in the answer because we all are desperately waiting for Winds of Winter to come out. And I would challenge, like, that's the disappointing thing. That's why this is 3 parts of me just sitting here saying, how did it come to this? How did you go from writing A Storm of Swords, one of the best fantasy books ever written, to this? One of the dumbest fantasy books ever written. I don't know. Do you want to rubric it?
Oh God, I forgot we could even rubric.
Yeah, we do that.
I didn't even bother to rubric it. All right, let's do it. Blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. I still hate Peppa Pig.
I'm glad you've remained consistent.
All right, Ben. Content and ideas.
3.
Yeah, it's either that or 2, but I guess they're underdeveloped.
I would say underdeveloped.
Yeah. Organizational structure. 2?
2.
Yeah.
So a 2 is the organizational structure is present but ineffective. The narrative is confusing and hard to follow in a way that does not feel intentional. The pacing is either much too fast or much too slow. Much too slow.
This shouldn't have been 700 pages. The wiki's better, more concise.
The wiki's better, more concise. And here's the thing where it matters, because the longer I spend reading it, like the more random details you throw at me, the more like rapes, murders, and dismemberments and all this stuff. Like, that's just more time for me to forget. Wait, which Jaehaerys was the first, or Aegon the 2.5? Did the one Aegon get? Is he's not an Aegon? He was the second Aegon, but he's not Aegon 2 because he was never
He was never
Crowned.
crowned. Aegon the Uncrowned, you see.
And I know, George, what you're going to tell me is, yeah, it's all, they're all Charles and Edward and Henry, and there's James, and there's 17 of them each. And I get that. But okay, history's hard to remember too. I don't know. Okay.
All right, which Louis was Louis the 12th?
That's the thing. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do, but also I don't, because I don't know. And I'm sure I was told, because I've taken many history classes. And I don't know, and I don't care.
Use of language, Ben.
Oh, God.
3?
Yeah.
There's no style to it.
Oh, I disagree. I think there's much and more style to it. Why, how dare you declare that there is little and less style when there's so very clearly much and more, and we must say much and more. We must needs say much and more many times. And
he was 10 and 6 years old.
He's 10 and 6 years old, except when he's 16, when we just say it like a normal person. And
well, how about this? I didn't like the style, and it didn't fit a history book. So if anything, I should dock points.
I'm gonna go with a 4.
I'm giving it a 3.
The style's fine.
I'm not giving you style points for this because you intended to write a history. You don't need style points for your fucking history book. Cut it out.
I think the language is fine. He's a good writer. This is a bad format. I took it out of him on organization. My problems with it are the organization. I don't like the framing.
What's your personal preference, Ben?
Oh, Jesus.
2 or
2,
I can't say I
guess.
absolutely hated it.
Well, here's the thing. I did, but well, I guess I shouldn't say I absolutely hated it. You're right. Because it's like the wiki. I'm interested in the wiki, but a
wiki has hyperlinks I can click on.
A 3 would be I'm generally positive towards the book, and obviously I'm not. So I'll give it a 2. I can understand if you're somebody, there probably is at least somebody. I mean, there's a bunch of people who give this 5 stars, and I don't believe them, but yeah, I guess. Recommendation strength.
1, Ben.
1.
I do not recommend this to anyone. Just read the wiki. The wiki will tell you. You want to learn more about Jaehaerys? You just type his name in the search bar. It'll bring up that Jaehaerys. You can read all about him.
Well, and
that's what your thing is.
It'll actually give you more context.
Yeah.
Because it's not laser focused on the Targaryens.
And then you can click on hyperlinks when other people come up and you're like, oh, what's this guy about? You click on that, and yeah, no, the wiki is what I would recommend if you wanted to know more about the Targaryens or about the history of Westeros. This is probably the worst version of that.
Yeah.
I gave it 35 points, Ben.
Oh, what did I give it? I guess
you gave it 4 points more than me, so you gave it 39.
39, yeah. That about matches. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 on Goodreads.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line really is the recommendation strength. It's just George R.R. Martin is not your bitch, as a famous pervert once said. But he does butter his bread with the Game of Thrones money. Yeah. And he wants to he is the rock band that no longer wants to play the hits. He does not he wants to be able to enjoy all these side projects that aren't Game of Thrones while neglecting his magnum opus, and everybody hates that, and it's a huge bummer. And don't get me wrong, the people who are criticizing him about like his age and his weight and saying like, oh, the dude looks like death, he better hurry up and finish those books, that's rude and uncalled for. But let's not pretend this is anything other than what it is. This is a stalling tactic.
Yeah.
This book should not exist. This is just glorified merch that he crapped out. He did not put the kind of effort into this that he put into Game of Thrones or the Song of Ice and Fire series. It's barely even a sequel to A World of Ice and Fire.
Oh, I thought
And
it was just the World of Ice and Fire, but we took some ideas from that and then just laser focused on the Targaryens.
it's
And...
specifically focused on the Targaryens. I want to address one more thing. A lot of people make a big deal about this being like a beautiful coffee table book because of the pictures in it. The pictures are fine. They're okay.
All right.
I do. What do you think
Good.
about them? Did you look at the pictures?
No.
Oh,
I
you
was
listened
too
to an
busy.
audiobook or something.
I read and listened to an audiobook, and whenever a picture came up, it was like, "Oh, cool, one less page. Next." I don't have time to look at your fucking pictures. I've got 700 pages I need to read.
I just want you to like cut in Gordon Ramsay here eating an
Fucking
average.
raw.
No, not even the horrible ones. I want you to cut in one of the ones where he goes to a restaurant and he eats like store brand ravioli. And he's like, it's just so disappointing. It's just, wow, it's just bland, tasteless, disappointing, sad.
Yeah, it's your parents saying, "I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed."
I bought a book by George R. Martin, and he gave me the McDonald's of literature. And only Gordon Ramsay can convey what that disappointment feels like as he's hamming it up for the camera. Because the narrative needs to have him like start low and then get better. But on Words About Books, it's different. This is all 100% honest. There's no showmanship here. Not an ounce.
Not even a little bit.
Because we are serious literature people. And we're funded by even more serious literature people. Such as Jamie the Gravy Man of the If You Want the Gravy blog, where he's reviewing everything. He can review this book. I don't care. Spooky Shash, shout out the Y over on TikTok. Isekai Sensei Sama of the That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster podcast. And Keegan. He didn't give me a project, so I'm just going to say hi, Keegan. And also goodbye, because it's the end of the show. And then we have John Bierce, actual author of The Mage Errant, The Rack, and The City That Would Eat the World.